Everything you do here, here, or here goes in here and ends up here. Over-applying chemical fertilizer on your lawn leads to chemical runoff in our waterways. Waste that goes into storm drains becomes waste that pollutes our streams. Pet waste left on the ground washes into our water along with harmful bacteria. Help keep our water healthy and safe. Remember, if it's on the ground, it's in our water. Learn more at mark.org.
Good evening. It is 6 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Councilmember Salinas.
Here.
Councilmember Click.
Here.
Councilmember Saper.
Here.
Councilmember Bailey.
Here.
Councilmember Magrone.
Here.
Councilmember Fitzgerald.
Here.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Here.
Now we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Clark. All right. Number 4, approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion on the agenda?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, item 5, comments from the public. If you're a member of the public wishing to speak, please approach the microphone and offer your comment. Please limit that to 5 minutes. And we are scrubbing the requirement, or at least the request, to state your address for the record. So come on up and let us know what you think. Good evening.
So, as you guys know, Rich from the North Kansas City Business Council likes us to come on and say a little something, so he asked me to kind of talk a little bit about SCI. My name's Chris Watson. I'm with SCI. Throughout my entire life, I've always been trying to help people use technology to keep themselves safe. And that path eventually led me to SCI, a company with a genuine commitment to communities where it operates. That commitment is a big reason why I'm here today. SCI, Security Equipment Incorporated, started over 50 years ago in Omaha, Nebraska. As we continue to grow, we weren't just going to go lease an office building somewhere. So in 2017, we purchased a building not too far from here. It's down on 1225 Swift Street, and we've been there ever since. What SCI does, and you can kind of see it on the screens today, and this is basically us showing off, but in a good way. It shows the scale of what we do every day. Over 30,000 intrusion systems and cameras out there doing their jobs. More than 25,000 access control door openings for the right people, and about 2,000 fire signals monitored every month. The big takeaway is that it isn't just theoretical security. It's real systems, real monitoring, and real results, all happening that proves that SCI has a scale to be trusted and proven where it counts. We support many local businesses, and we help them answer questions like, how do I improve safety and security even after hours? What's the best way to protect our businesses from fire risks? How do we control building access for employees, vendors, and visitors? Can systems like ours help them with more than just security and operations? We also offer 24/7 professional monitoring services, fire, smoke, and carbon monoxide detection systems, residential cameras, and home automation systems. We're proud members of the North Kansas City Business Council and the Chamber of Commerce. That involvement helps us stay connected, contribute to local initiatives, and collaborate with other companies that make North Kansas City such a strong business community. I have to say, I personally am impressed by the commitment of the city members and the businesses that are part of the Business Council. North Kansas City businesses genuinely care for each other and the residents in the community. That kind of mindset isn't something you see every day. It's rare and it's something special. We love the strong sense of community here in North Kansas City. For upcoming Snake Saturday parade, we're opening our business just be a place where people can stay warm, come in for a cup of coffee or a cup of cocoa, and just warm up before everything gets started. In closing, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak today. And at the end of the day, SCI isn't just a security company. We're a community partner. We chose North Kansas City on purpose. We're proud to invest here, to grow here, and to show up here. Whether it's protecting local businesses, supporting residents, or even opening our doors on a cold Snake Saturday morning, we're committed for the long haul. Thank you for showing us, for welcoming us into the community, and we're proud to call North Kansas City home, and even prouder to help keep it safe. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much, and thanks for being here with us for so long. I really appreciate that offer for Snake Saturday. Hopefully we won't need it. The weather will be warm enough, but that's very kind of you. Further public comments? Going once? All right. Moving on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion on the consent agenda?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Regular items, item number 11.
Update from Northland Assistance Center on emergency cold weather sheltering.
All right, so I spoke to Rita this past week about the status of their funding. They are starting to run low due to some very, very cold weather that we've been experiencing recently. Rita mentioned she's got at least a story to share from somebody. I don't know if they were able to make it. It doesn't seem they were able to come with you.
No, they were at a bus stop, and the bus broke down. Welcome to transportation in Northland. He is desperately going to try to make it. I told him we were first on the agenda.
Sure.
His name is Daniel, and I wish you could have met him because he really wanted to say thank you. It's very difficult to find someone who will do that. I did not ask him to do it, but when he was getting ready to go into a hotel for another week because of the cold weather, he said, "What can I do?" And I invited him to the meeting. He may roll through a door while I'm talking. I hope he does.
Sure.
Or maybe if he rolls through the door, you might interrupt for a moment and let him say thank you.
Yeah,
Because he is really on the way.
we'll check with Mr. Barzee, but I
Yeah.
think we can make that happen.
Well,
Yeah.
we're going to wait and see how it happens, and he knows that.
Sounds good.
So I'm here to report on where we're at right now. First, thank you, Mayor and City Council members, for your continued support for this effort. It's an amazing thing, and as I've said time and time again, it's the only city in the entire metro that does dedicate money to take care of the homeless. So I'm going to make it short because I know what it's like to sit on the City Council. So at this point in time, we have $2,070.64 remaining from the $30,000 and the administrative fees. It has been, as you all know, a crazy, crazy winter. You have provided 401 room nights for individuals in the cold since the 1st of November. In addition to that, our agency has a funding pool that allows for, because there was some members of the council said, what happens if they don't meet the criteria? We've been trying to meet that need as long as they're allowed to stay at the American Inn, and our agency has spent money for 37 room nights for about $3,000. North Kansas City Health, I have an ongoing grant with them, so nothing ever happens like it did a couple years ago. So if they have to release someone and they have no place to go, they continually fund my agency. They just put money in our agency account. And since the 1st of November, we have 12 rooms for a total of $1,164.68. If we cannot accommodate under any of those circumstances, we have been referring people to a Turning Point. I hope you've been paying attention on Facebook in regard to this organization. They only can house people when it's 10 degrees or less, but it is a fail-safe. We sent many, many people to that organization. They have 60 cots at Gashland United Methodist Church, and they brought it up to 70 when need be, and they provide overnight shelter from 6 at night till 6 in the morning. Then they send them to warming shelters. In addition, we have given everyone that we've had to refer to Turning Point or other places or have not been able to meet our criteria or Turning Point's criteria, we give them information regarding places they can eat and places they can get warm up north. I provided this information for the police and fire department, so they're well aware as well.
Thank you so much. So before us, we have a request for an additional $5,000 that, in speaking with you, should get us through the rest of the cold season, barring some horrible blizzard conditions. So the question before the council is an additional $5,000. Are we ready to make that allocation? Thoughts or questions?
Mayor, may I say, as when we talked, we discussed an amount.
Yep.
I am not standing here before you to ask for an amount. I really want to make that clear because I'm telling you where we're at now. And then you and I talked about where we might be to get us through September, which is the end of our grant. And that's what we had come to a conclusion about.
I'm trying to remember, how much have we spent this year and how much was allocated last year to the Northland Assistance Center?
65,000 last year. But then we restricted the number of people coming, so we're no longer housing Wyandotte, Jackson, and other counties. As I indicated before, when I got together with the mayor and shared with the council, we restricted it down to where, and it's already in the memorandum, to whereas they have to be chronically homeless in the Northland, receiving services for 6 months, valid Missouri ID, Social Security card, and not been kicked out of the American Inn. Pretty much those are the criteria. We worked all summer to accommodate our regular homeless to make sure they met those requirements. We worked hand in hand with the Turning Point, and then we found other resources if we could not address those issues.
So we spent 28 so far. This
Yeah,
year of the
approximately.
30. Yep.
Yeah.
So we allocated
Yeah,
30.
basically 28,
got
27,
two
9,
left.
29.
And then we're asking, we're putting 5,000 forth, so it would give us 7 for the remainder. See some head nods. Do you have something further? Head nods, thumbs ups. Okay, the mechanism for this is a little murky because we did it under a resolution before. We didn't have a resolution on the agenda, so Tom and I have kind of discussed about how to get this done. The directive from the council will be to allocate 5,000 to be made available as soon as possible through the correct legal means. Yep, go ahead.
Rita, thank you so much for coming and talking to us. I just have one question. The data that you were talking, that you gave us some numbers about, can that be shared with us or city staff so that we can see that?
It can. I have
Great.
this is all the folios.
Okay.
Right here. I have to redact all the names.
That'd
'cause
be-
I cannot
that-
share
that would
those
be
with-
excellent.
And they're always available. Anybody who wants to see them, can come by my office.
Yeah, 'cause I
Just let
remember
me
you
know
mentioned
ahead of time
numbers,
so I
but-
can redact it. Yeah.
I just can't remember those offhand, and I was trying to take notes.
Yeah, that's what we did. And if you need specific numbers, I can tell you what we did in November, December, January.
Honestly, all of that would be wonderful. Just kind of
Yeah, I
like,
can-
here's-
I can pull
here's
up reports
the
for
number
them.
of people who we helped in this month, and
Sure.
the number of room nights and that sort of thing. So you can kind of see a tally for those of us who have, especially Connor, who is financially minded.
I know.
Can kind of see the comparison of like, here's our contribution, and then here's how it's been distributed.
Sure, I can do it month by month, because we started November 1st. So, partway through November 1st. I can pull up stats just like I did for cumulative stats for tonight's purposes for each month. I just did not bring them for
Okay.
here. But if you want to come by my office, you all know where I'm at.
If you wouldn't mind me emailing that to city staff?
Absolutely.
Excellent,
I
thank
can
you.
do it as a service summary. I can't do it as a client served.
Sure, oh, absolutely, we don't want details.
If you want a service summary, just email me. I can send the information to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any further questions, thoughts? Okay, 5,000 headed that direction. Same terms and conditions.
Right. Under the same terms and conditions of a contract, you're authorizing the city administrator to expend up to an additional $5,000. Is that what am I hearing?
That is right. Do you need a motion?
And it would be
Yes.
best that it would be done by a motion
Okay.
and, a vote then.
Can anybody recite what Tom just said back as a motion? Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, so moved. We got a second on that one?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Beautiful. Thank you, Rita. Thank you for
Thank
what
you.
you're
And then
doing.
if you want any additional information, let me know. Just email me. I can send you the summary sheets. If you actually want to see the folios, you can do that as well. I
Excellent.
appreciate your consideration, and my homeless individuals appreciate your consideration.
And if you see Daniel come in, just give me the wave, and we'll make an accommodation. Perfect. Okay, moving on to item 12.
Presentation by Ad hoc Composting Committee on proposed service.
Good evening.
Good evening.
What do you have for us?
My name is Diane Barrow, and I have been working with Bart German and Johanna Keel on promoting community composting. And I'm here tonight so that with the objective to resolve all questions and feedback so that the city staff will have what they need to enter into a contract with KC Can Compost for community bin service. As you know, there are several aspects to community composting, home composting, curbside service. This is strictly for community bin service. The lead time for the bins is at least 4 months now. And so we are hoping to get this contract signed as soon as possible so that we can hit that prime composting season in the summer. We can resolve the issues of where the bins are placed and how to enforce who will use them after the contract is signed. But so this time, I just wanted to make a very specific proposal to have 2 smart cans installed in North Kansas City for the use of residents that will be emptied weekly and will be free to the people who sign up to use them. The cost to the city, and this is assuming a very optimistic delivery date, the cost to the city would be, for both cans, $2,400 at signing, and then monthly, $900 per month, for a total, for all of calendar year 2026, of $9,600. And if you'll remember, late last year, before the budget was approved, you had approved $1,000 a month for the 12 months of the fiscal year. That $1,000 a month would allow for 3 additional pickups per month in case we exceed the weekly delivery requirements, and we'd still stay within that $1,000 budget. So I was just wondering, it might be a good time, since that's the concrete proposal, I wondered if this would be a good time to stop and just see if anybody has any questions.
Go ahead.
First off, thank you for doing all the legwork to get this kind of up and running. But how do I say this? Just looking at the numbers, it looks like it's fairly pricey for the bins and the fixed monthly pickups, but it's pretty low cost for the additional, $32 a bin or whatever for extra pickups.
Yes.
Could you talk me through the advantage of the second bin versus just one? They looked like they're being proposed being at the library and the parks. They'd be pretty close together. So I was just trying to
Right.
think through double the price for that.
Right, absolutely. That is absolutely a valid consideration. This is a pilot project, and I think when we started, we just wanted to make sure that, well, let me back up. Ultimately, we hope that this is successful enough that we, at some point, feel the effect in our curbside trash pickup. These programs tend to make trash pickup a lot less volume, a lot tidier. Landfill availability is filling up. We need to look for solutions to that. We wanted to make sure that we had an implementation that was successful enough that people were encouraged to use it. We didn't want people to show up and not have the capacity to empty their food scrap that they've been collecting. So we thought 2 bins would be great to make sure it was successful. And the fact that they're smart bins and they are collecting data all the time, if we go through a period of this pilot project and we decide we have topped out at the capacity that we need, we'll have the data to make choices to use. Maybe we don't need smart cans. Maybe we can go with the ones that don't have that technology. Or if we need to just have 1 bin, we can do that. Or we could start with 1 bin, absolutely. And if we need to add more, I think the 4-month lead time is also tricky, because if we start with 1 and then we need to, it takes a little more time. It takes a lot more time. So, but certainly going with 1 is also a valid option.
So my understanding your question is the difference between 2 cans with some extra pickups or 1 can with more extra pickups, so it's getting emptied more often?
Yeah, it looked like, and I haven't been as much in the numbers as you all, but it looked like the extra pickups are only $32 a pickup, but it's quite a bit higher cost for the bins and the
technology fee of $1,200.
$900 per month for weekly pickup. But doing that one $900 pickup with some $30 extra pickups.
Right.
Might be a
I
lot
would-
cheaper than two $900 pickups.
I think this was probably quoted with the idea of 2 bins, and if you went back with them asking for 1, you would find pricing would change on you. Just a thought.
Yeah,
There's always a
so we're kind of walking a tightrope between making somebody have to go further to drop it off, which might deter people, versus having a single can that might top out, but if we have more pickups, it might not. I would like to give this like its best fighting chance to get off the ground. And, you know, for an extra, it's $1,200 for the tech fee. I think that's fine in my book. But if council has other thoughts, go ahead and run through them.
In the interest of providing all the information we can, Karen Ramsey with KC Can Compost is here.
All right.
And she prepared the materials that you were presented before the meeting and may have some input to this.
Excellent. And thank you for the slideshow. I think everyone ran through it. So if there's stuff you want to point out in there or just stuff we might not understand about this, please share.
And thank you for allowing me to come talk as well. And just to
Can you make sure you speak into the microphone?
yeah, is this better?
You can lift it up a little bit too. Yeah, there you go.
Okay,
Beautiful.
good. Thank you for allowing me to support Diane in this conversation. Some of the points that you made in regard to 1 can versus 2 can are the reasons behind that. We find that when individuals are using a drop-off program like this, there is a certain proximity bump where, you know, if you only have 1 can, if I have to travel too far, I won't go do the drop-off, versus if I have a location that's relatively close to me, we're more likely to have more people participating. And then that is then the additional technology side of it. Each of these cans tracks usage, it tracks fullness, and we're able to use that, as Diane mentioned, to really help understand, you know, how many people in the community are using it, how often are they using it, which can also then help us understand, you know, if you need another can, where are there clusters of users in the community that, you know, a can would be well suited in this part of town because a lot of users are coming from that part of town to another can. So there's a lot of good data that we get from those containers. And the other tricky part with that is you can certainly use just 1 smart can and you can add more pickups, but there's only a certain number of days per week that we can add pickups. So, you know, once you hit 4 or 5 days a week of collection, then you have no runway to grow that program, versus if you have 2 cans and you start out with 1 pickup a week, then you do still have that capacity to add more pickups to each of those cans to be able to collect more than just 1 can picked up, you know, 4 or 5 days a week.
Gotcha. And the lead time on the cans is the real lynch point there for me, is if we do find out that we can't empty it fast enough and people are coming to a full bin, like that's gonna end it right there for a lot of people.
Right.
I do think the second can, especially to give this a real chance, and it's within budget, makes sense to me. Councilmember Saper.
I like this project, but I'm concerned that, is it a monthly basis for the charges? In other words, after 6 months, if it doesn't work out as we hope, can we reorder the structure or maybe cancel if it doesn't work out at all?
Yes, so this is a monthly service agreement. And so, yes, if after 6 months you have, you know, found that there are issues with the program, we can certainly discuss removing a can, or these are cans that can be, you know, moved around. So if a particular location ends up not being the best option, we can work with you to move a can to a different location to help enhance the success of the program.
We're a very small city in population and geography, and the issue you mentioned of traveling, which people have to do to make this deposit. I don't think it's going to be a major factor here. But we'll find out with the data, and I look forward to it. Thank you.
Councilmember Click.
I was just scrolling through again the slides that you attached. There's also in here an option for one smart can and one standard can. Obviously, we lose the data, but it's like pretty significantly cheaper if we want to. So then at least people have a place. We get the data from whichever can we want to choose. Just another option if the cost is of major concern.
In the pilot, I would very much opt for the smart can so that we learn where those people are. But yeah, it is a cost-saving option. Councilmember Groen.
So I appreciate the value of composting. I do. I appreciate that we're looking at ways to improve our environment as a city. Where my hesitation is right now we're spending, as a city, we're going to spend $12,000 on a pilot for composting. We just gave $5,000 to keep people warm. This is a totally different kind of problem, right? We're solving first world problems and we're solving third world problems. When we reach the end of the pilot, which it sounds like at this point is now, is it a 6-month pilot or is it a year-long pilot?
Our original intention was for it to be a year.
So is it going to be 6 months for $12,000?
Well, no, it would be, I mean, what's happened is, we're a citizens committee and we don't know how quickly things are going to happen. So we're to a point now where we've got 6 months, hopefully, in the current fiscal year, and then 6 months in the next fiscal year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then the question becomes, what does success look like for this pilot? And if, and I don't know what that looks like. Does it look like 10 people signed up and are using it? Is that success? Because some people are using it. Does it look like 100 people? Does it look like 1,000 people? Is there a certain percentage of the city, of our residents who start using it that equate to success? Or is it just a feeling? Because I don't really want to spend money year after year on vibes. I'd like to see some, like what is a successful pilot? And then what does that mean for the city's expenditures related to this project going forward? And I just want all of us to think about that because I think this is composting is a great thing, but up until this point, it's been something that people do because it's the right thing to do. And when we talk about one of the benefits being that it potentially reduces the amount of trash that we're setting out on our own, we're going to have trash pickup. We can't reduce our city trash pickup. We're not going to save money as a city on trash pickup because we're spending money on composting. It's really just we're helping the environment by spending money on composting at this point. Because we aren't going to reduce our trash pickup from one-time trash and one-time recycling if we also implement composting. We still need one-time trash and one-time composting. So it's not like a successful composting pilot is going to result in some kind of savings for the city. It makes us feel good, which is great, and it makes us look like it makes us as a city be on the cutting edge of environmental action, which is also fine if that's something that community members want to be a part of. But just keep in mind that we really need to think about what does success look like, and are we as a council and as a city committed to continuing that going forward over time?
Thanks for framing it that way. The way I would kind of conceive of this is as we send this out, this is a conceived pilot that fits within the budget that we kind of laid out, that we allocated. It's one of those where we put it out into the wild and see what happens, and it could shrink, it could grow, it could be, if we get an amazing, so you kind of said if 10 people sign up, probably end up turfing the program. If we get 50 to 100, we might get a single bin and find where the hot spot is for that group now that we have the data and locate it best for them, and then hopefully they keep using it or it grows over time. And then if we get 1,000, goodness, like we've really started to make a dent, and we can expand the program at the discretion of the council at that time, depending on what the costs and inputs look like. And you're correct. The trash angle, while it's great to reduce what's in the bins and all that, like, we're not going to cut. Look, if you're watching, we're not cutting another day off trash, I promise. So that's really not going to be a cost-saving thing. It is, we've talked about this a number of times. It was in the last time we cast any strategic vision. We're coming into that again. There was a lot of emphasis on environmental stewardship, green pledges, trying to make a difference for the environment. And for, at least from my perspective, it's worth sending this pilot out to see what dent we can make. And it is, it's not nothing. It's $12,000, but it's not a huge cost in the grand scheme of all that we spend as a city. I think this could really make a difference. And your original presentation talked about getting methane out and what a greenhouse gas it is, and there's a lot there that can be good with that. I've had bias. Anybody on this side have questions or thoughts? Yes, sir.
Did we get any quotes from companies other than Casey Can?
There are no other companies that do this type of service. So,
There you go.
Just to clarify that, we, at this time, are the only company in the Kansas City Metro that can or are providing smart cans. So,
But there are companies that pick up compost not using the smart can option.
potentially.
Okay. I would maybe be curious in other operators. I think also we have a procurement policy for items in this price range. It requires 3 written bids before moving forward in the policy we adopted in October.
Go ahead.
is there a dollar amount on that? Because I thought that was for annual spending of $50,000 or.
I think 5 to 15 triggers the 3
5 to
quotes.
15.
So yeah, I'm kind of poorly using you all as an example, but I just want to make sure that we do, as a city, follow those new provisions. And this is kind of the first time I've seen something come up in this range without
Right.
the bids, so.
Well, we're in an interesting situation. I'm going to have to ask Karen who her competition is, because I have not found anyone. And I looked for people to do this, not just with a smart can, but with any kind of pickup for a community location. So
Sure.
you can tell me about that later.
Just to add, just to add in there, a lot of times when we, in Public Works, when we're looking at sole sourcing, I think there is provisions for sole sourcing in the procurement policy.
Okay.
A lot of times, if we're defining a scope in a certain way, looking for certain services, I think that's where sometimes that, after a due diligence period of looking through and, so I think it does come down to the scope. So that might have been one of the things that was identified in this particular company that
Okay.
outlines that. So if we're looking at changing the scope, that might be more in-depth and getting into the weeds with it, but I just want to add that in.
Yeah, if that's the case, I'm good with it. I just want to make sure that we are getting the bids like we are supposed to be, or, when those opportunities arise for, we're having discussions about here, if it's too expensive or not, just knowing if another provider could offer, even if it's not smart bins, but some kind of similar pickup at half the cost, I'd be curious.
Councilmember Bailey.
In working with this ad hoc committee, I had gone down the rabbit hole a little bit. I believe they were an excellent choice because their experience with municipal pilots, which is, I think, one of the reasons why they're here in front of us today. Given the time urgency to get this rolled out, I would be in favor of going ahead with where we're at. Wouldn't expect to see a 50% discount if we shopped it around. So I'd be more in favor of having something and moving forward than waiting and doing all the things and then not getting something until in the fall. In terms of success of the program, I think you'd laid out the goal of ideally hitting 5 and ideally 10% of the population. So I think that's kind of our benchmarks of, at least a conversation about success. I think council could certainly have an internal conversation about whether we agree with that or not, but that could be a starting baseline for us.
Councilmember Safer.
Yeah, we have to be very careful with all of our expenditures, the big ones and the small ones as well. But I see this as a pilot project, which is one reason why we need the smart bins to get the data. And after 6 months, we'll know at that point, do we can it? Because people really aren't that interested, frankly. Or do we continue it? And so I support it at that level.
So just to be clear, this is being spec'd out for a year. You've said 6 months a couple times. It does seem like we could cancel at any point. If it's really,
Yeah.
truly not taking it off, we could call it off, but
That's why I ask if it's a month-to-month basis.
I'd like to see it through, given it the year's worth of time to get there. But if we're seeing 0 to like 5 signups
That's
after
right.
6 months, yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
But I agree about the smart bins. I think as a pilot piece, we need as much data as we can, and this is a unique opportunity to get that using these bins. Linda.
Just a quick question. I think the reason maybe we were thinking or referring to 6 month, it does say from May 1st to December 1st of this year. So is that that's our trial period? Or
No,
is that,
I'm sorry, that's confusing. I was trying to just give you an idea for the remainder of the year, what expenses I anticipated.
Yep. It's fiscal year versus calendar year and all that good stuff. Fun.
Or, I mean, we're basically looking at $1,800 a month for however long it goes on, right?
Where are you getting 18?
900 per month per bin?
It's 900 for both.
For
bins.
both.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
okay.
900 for both.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
so it's half of what I thought
450
then.
per.
Okay, yeah.
Yep. 1,200 per bin for the setup, 450 per bin after that.
Yes.
Connor's in now.
Yeah, we got him. We got it. We
I mean,
just got a 50%
it's
discount. There
relatively
you go.
low cost on an ongoing
There you
basis.
go. You wanted a 50% haircut.
Just for context, the table that was in the memo, the close to 12 grand was based on starting February 1st. So with it now being 4 months out, I mean, there's the purchase, but then that's going to be lower. The bigger one is the annualized one that, when it becomes a year, it was closer to 17. That's based on the 3 pickups per week.
Yep.
So, I mean, just keeping in mind that, and the other question, I think I would be interested in, and she mentions in here, maybe, are you going to get to who uses the bins?
Yes.
Open to everybody in the Northland, or is it,
Yeah.
that's, because that will affect
I mean,
the
I don't-
number of pickups per week.
Again, smart bins, you can explain whether we can stop people from using them, but and I think we can. Hold on, one other thing is as we go forward, if this sort of proves itself out, we've got a grant from Mark now, but if we can show that we're making like really good numbers, really good progress, that grant might grow, that could get bigger. So we also have other opportunities to supplant this expense from us by looking to community grants. So go ahead.
I think the community grants are for startup expenses only, but certainly we could use grant money for the money due at contract signing.
Sure.
Absolutely. We would like to use some of that money to encourage the home composting as well. So we're kind of trying to figure out how to parse that out.
I
But
believe they offer additional grants that would cover potentially ongoing stuff, but I'll talk to David. Well, I guess he's leaving, but anyways, never mind that. Okay, talk to us about the smart bin piece, about how we can control access. Is that a?
well, what we had talked about, and this really kind of came up in discussions with city staff, Casey Can Compost has the ability to look at people as they're signing up. They have to give an address, and we talked about how we would like anyone who works for North Kansas City to be able to use it. We have a way to do that. And then the discussion is, well, if we're doing this for environmental reasons, how strictly do we enforce it? And I truly chose just an arbitrary number. And you might say the right number is 100% of the people who registered for this need to be residents of North Kansas City, and I absolutely understand that. The other way to look at it is if we can stay within our $1,000 budget and we have people who are enthusiastic users and we have 90% North Kansas City residents and 10% they are not giving an address that's inside our city, maybe we just let that go. But like I said, it's an arbitrary number, and if we want to just maintain it for residents only, that's fine.
It's an interesting conundrum to wrestle with, because if we're trying to do the most good for the environment, you open it wide, it can also become a train that runs off the tracks, and it puts us carrying the expense of other municipalities. preference-wise for piloting, I would like to see it be 100% people
Okay.
who provide a North Kansas City residence address, but I would be open to thoughts from the rest of the council.
Can we do 100%, all North Kansas City residents plus city employees?
Yes. I mean, they could, if they're city employees, they could just 2010 Howl.
Yeah, that's,
2010, yeah, there you go. If you're listening to this, you also get the discount code. Yeah, 2010 Howl, but they would need to put an address in, and for staff.
well, and the smart cans will allow us to collect data so that they can comb through it various ways.
Sure.
We're only going to have so many people using 2010 Howl, so
Very good.
we can do that.
Any other thoughts, Councilmember Bailey?
I'd run it wide open. I don't think we're going to, at $30 and empty, I don't think we're going to run our pockets empty and just see what happens. If we evaluate in, a month or two and it's 90%, KC Mo North, okay, let's look at it. But I think it's going to be incidental. And also, KC Mo is running a program similar to this. If it's something that we long-term see as a good thing all around, we can share around, I think. And that becomes even a stronger program. But you don't know until you get the data. It's a pilot program. I don't think we're going to spend but a couple $100s to find out.
So the question on the discussion right now is, do we open it beyond North Kansas City or not? Okay.
I say yeah.
Okay, so who says open it beyond North Kansas City? 1, 2. Who says North Kansas City addresses only? 1, 2, 3,
Including Howell.
4. Okay, I mean,
For now.
for now, I think for the pilot, I think we keep it tight. If others I mean, that people are going to get a hold of this, they're going to see it being talked about. We might get some questions from our friends and neighbors
Yes.
outside of North Kansas City. But for us, for our budget and for the funds we're allocating, they kind of need to stay benefiting folks in North Kansas City.
Yes, and I think as people sign up and they don't have the right address to get the service for free, they will be given options for how they can participate in the process. If they're, as you said, if they're KCMO residents, they already have free options. So
And
it'll be an ongoing training for all of us.
They may also learn that they don't live in North Kansas City. This is something we struggle with all the time. That will be a fun teaching moment.
Right.
All right. Do we have other questions on the table at this point?
Do you have what you need to proceed? Okay.
I think the next step, Tom Barzee has the draft agreement. He was going through that, red lines.
So given the urgency,
yeah.
I'd like to see that moved
Bring it back
along
to next meeting.
next meeting so we can get the contract signed and start.
That was going to be the question, given my limit on in contractability. Does the council want to see it back, or do you want us to work together, Barzee, and move it along?
So
Either way is fine, but
you could place the order and then we could sign off on the contract at the next meeting. Is that what I'm understanding?
without the contract, it would be hard to, go ahead and purchase. If for some reason you guys said, no, you know what, we don't like. So it was this question, we can bring it back.
Yeah.
But it's up to all of you, or if you want us to move forward.
Yeah, if we wait until the next meeting, we're looking at late June to get the bins. If we can, again, it's up to council, but I would say move forward expeditiously.
We'll work on getting the contract, the red line back, and move
We're
ahead.
basically committing $2,400 to buy the bins, right? That'd be the cost at this point.
That's the tech fee and setup, yeah.
We already have a grant for substantially more than that.
So it's not much, just to get that piece moving.
Yeah, so can we go ahead and get the bins ordered so that we're not waiting another 2 weeks and then not getting delivery until midsummer? Okay.
I believe so.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on that one? Any other thoughts, questions, concerns from the city council? Diane and I forget. I'm sorry.
We are operating in real time here. I
Yeah,
apologize.
yeah, very good. thank you for this. Thanks for putting all the presentation and all the hard work, and Bart and everybody who's been involved. Thank you all for this. This is excellent. I look forward to the data we get and excited to get it rolled out as soon as we possibly can.
Thank you so much. I appreciate all of your support and your questions and your comments and your concerns. You know, we hear them all, and I just appreciate it. We all do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. All right, on to something substantially less fun. Item 13.
Consideration of an ordinance approving a contract with the Clay County Sheriff's Department for prisoner housing. Bill number 7966, ordinance number 9763.
Chief Freeman, you want to talk us through this one?
Sure. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I briefed you on this a little bit last meeting. That this was forthcoming. This is an agreement between Clay County Sheriff's Department and the City of North Kansas City for them to house our municipal arrests. So something that's been ongoing for a number of years, mostly with Clay County for probably close to 10 years now. Prior to that, we used Ray County Security Housing, which was a private jail. It's beneficial. Hold the people that commit crimes here in North Kansas City accountable to some form of the justice system other than the revolving door that has been since almost 2020. So we appreciate the opportunity for the sheriff opening up his jail for our municipal arrest. We know he doesn't have to. We also know that comes at a cost, and it's a significant cost. We were paying $59.37 a day for prisoners in the last agreement, and this one moves it up to $150 a day. So happy to answer any questions.
Do we have questions? Councilmember Saber.
I think you just answered it. What was the daily cost again? Because it wasn't in the memo.
It was in the $59 range. 59. I forget the change. 59.17, 59.37.
And going up to?
It's going up to $150.
150. That's
per day.
It's on page 7 of 8. Housing rate per day, 150
I missed that one.
with all the inclusions. What's the difference between that and the 24-hour hold fee of $500? What is that?
So a 24-hour, I guess maybe education more than anything. In Missouri, if we arrest somebody for a felony, we're not talking about municipal arrests here, we're talking about felonies, we have 24 hours to either charge them or release them. So that gives the detectives, the investigators, the prosecutors time to work the case up, present it to the prosecutor, which would present it to a judge for a warrant, yada, yada, yada. Typically, we would like to have those people housed in jail while we're working on felony charges. To do so now, that is that charge. That charge has basically been in effect for a little over a year now. So we have adjusted our operations. And so instead of sending someone up immediately to the Clay County Jail while we're working up the case, we keep them here. The detectives then come in. Sometimes there's an overtime expense because of it. Sometimes we can work, in old times we could work the cases up during the day generally, not have the overtime expense, but now the detectives are coming in the middle of the night sometimes to immediately start on the case, interviewing the arrestee, the witnesses, and stuff like that to expedite that process so we don't have to pay that fee.
Okay. And capacity at Clay County, do we know how much availability they have up there?
So it depends on what day you ask, and it depends on their staffing levels. I think that they will typically tell you they are over capacity every day. They have people sleeping in what they call canoes on the floor, and because the bed space is overrun. And so what the sheriff is doing to accommodate this is he is housing out some of his prisoners to Caldwell County. So there's a cost for him to do that, obviously. So the price point is kind of fluctuating in back what that cost is going to be to him, his staff cost of moving people back and forth and stuff like that, to open up what is called a day room for a municipal arrest. And we will share 35 beds approximately between us, Gladstone, Liberty, Excelsior, Kearney, Smithville, every municipality in Clay County that wants to take the Sheriff's Department up on this offer.
Yep. So what I'm hearing is we could approve this and still have nowhere to put people at Clay County. We might have to still send them further off to, forget the other.
Caldwell.
Caldwell.
Yeah, it's possible. And we don't have the agreement yet. We got the agreement back too late from Caldwell County to get it on this agenda. So I would anticipate, based on Mr. Barzi's workload, having that on the next meeting.
Okay. So if anybody's listening and wondering why it's so very difficult to have a criminal justice system that functions very well, it's this sort of stuff. Capacity constraints on detention of people who commit crimes. We get somebody and they commit a minor offense, we had nowhere to put them. And the cost and all of the stuff involved is intense, and oftentimes there's just not a place. So just a little education for everybody.
Yeah, and based on the dollar amount that we have allocated this fiscal year, we have $100,000 allocated in our detention line for all detention expenses, including the expenses that we have back here with feeding and housing and stuff like that, laundry. But mostly that money is going to go to the cost that we pay to house our arrests outside. Likely not going to cover it very long.
Yep.
If you remember the previous fiscal year, we went from like a $75,000 budget line. Anticipating the increase, we moved it to $250,000. And so that money sat there and never got spent because the Sheriff's Department never opened up most of the year for whatever reason. Now we went back and we scaled that back, and so we put in 100 this year. It might last, it might not. We've already had meetings with our judge and prosecutor to talk about, some operational guidelines to not keep people in there for weeks on end if they don't need to be, but also get some level of accountability to the criminals here in North Kansas City.
Yeah. Do you have on the back of your napkin there average stay for a municipal prisoner?
I do not.
Person being
Honestly,
detained?
it's been so long since we've had consistent numbers, I wouldn't be able to provide good numbers anyway. Typically with the Senate Bill 5 that was passed back in 2020, 2021 era, there's been some reforms in the criminal justice system. So municipal prisoners just can't sit in jail for days on end waiting to see the judge. They have to see a judge within 72 hours and be arraigned. So in an arraignment, the judge can either choose to hold that person over on bond, or the judge can choose to release that person on their own recognizances. That's 100% up to the judge. And I think the judge, knowing some of the fiscal restraints that we have with some of this, will probably err more on the sides of releasing on that 72-hour arraignment. But if it's serious enough, he'll keep them.
Yeah.
So,
And then we continue to
bear
bear the cost if they're kept in. We continue to pay $150 a night,
Yes.
and we have no recourse on that, right? Like we can't just decide to let them out, which would be not great if they're a violent offender.
No, I mean, once they're past that process, the decision is the judge's.
And so that obligates us to pay $150 a night in
If
perpetuity.
the judge says that person needs 30 days in jail, then we're paying for 30 days for that person to sit in jail. Typically, municipal arrests do not exceed 30 days. That is an extreme example. If you get to someone that's got a serious enough offense, they need to spend 30 days in municipal jail, you might want to consider a felony charge if there's one available.
Right. Okay. I mean, this is all so very frustrating. I'm sure it is for you as well. But we sit and agonize over paying a pittance for a night to keep people alive in freezing temperatures, and then it's $150 to take somebody who's committed a violent crime and keep them housed and fed and clothed and all that. So it's extremely difficult to conceive, but there's not an alternative if we're going to hold people accountable. Councilmember Sager.
A slight correction, they've been charged.
Fair. That's fair.
They haven't been convicted.
That is fair.
So we just need to keep our language clean.
I will retract the have committed and we'll go with an alleged. But yes, it is very frustrating. Further, yes.
Yeah, I guess just for visibility, if anybody didn't read the memo at home, I'm just looking at the $250 per hour that is charged if they need to go to the hospital while they are being detained.
So, yes, that is $250 is charged if we're not there to relieve the Clay County deputy that accompanies the ambulance to the hospital.
Okay.
If we're not there within an hour, we start getting charged $250 an hour. So the operational process is Clay County calls us and says, hey, your prisoner needs medical attention. They're going to X hospital. We will then dispatch one of our police officers there to relieve the Clay County deputy that has accompanied them so we don't get charged that, in theory, if we have the staffing to do so. We also have different tools, depending on what level they are in the arrest process. We have the ability to contact the judge and see if they can be released on their own recognizance, knowing that they're going to be maybe in the hospital for 2 or 3 days. Like, we don't want to incur that expense either of having to have one of our officers sit up there 24/7, waiting for this person to get medical treatment too. And unfortunately, another, I'm not gonna give another pro tip. Mayor already gave one of those out.
Yeah. Is the, so if the Clay County, it's a great catch, $250 an hour is a wild number. So if we can't send a North Kansas City Police Department officer over to the hospital to sit with and provide security.
Yes. Yeah, we can.
No, like if we are unable to, for one reason or another, we pay the $250.
Correct.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Any other thoughts or questions on this one? Do we have a first reading? Oh, yes.
Just want to add a comment. I really don't think we have much of a choice. I mean, the other small cities use Clay County also, and we really don't have any other options that are not like, quite a ways away. So I just really don't think we have much option. Just wanted to add that.
Appreciate that. Feels like it.
Can I make a quick comment on that? You're correct, but there are also things that we can look at for in the future to potentially mitigate some of these ongoing expenses. As you know very well personally, like we used to be able to house people back here for longer stays in our own detention center. Part of the remodel that was done back in 2008 eliminated some of the aspects of a functional jail back there. We could bring those back, which would then also mean we would need to hire people to staff that. So, it's a yin and a yang, exactly. So,
Yeah, if remodeling the bathroom in the lobby is any indication, that'll be a $250,000 shower we have to install. But it's something to maybe look at some numbers. I don't know. It's starting to become a big number.
So if we did that, we'd have to add like shower facilities, way to keep food for the prisoners, et cetera. Plus, you have to have someone there 24/7 to watch them, correct?
in theory.
Okay.
Well, I mean, there's advancements in technology, right? Yeah. So like when we had before a full-time jailer work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 is what that or 7 to 3, whatever. And then that responsibility then fell to the secondary dispatcher when the jailer wasn't here. If that secondary dispatcher wasn't available, an officer came in off the streets to do it. We have camera monitorings in every cell now that we didn't have back then. So the physically walking back and checking every 15, 20 minutes that you typically had to do, you can now do through video. But yeah, there's a staff cost. It's going to require people. It's going to require someone being dedicated to that. Maybe not 24 hours a day, 365 days, but yes, there's going to be cost associated with it.
Oof. And while we've got this on the table, I may say that this is the background stuff that goes on all the time that most people don't think about at all. And so thanks to the officers that are doing this work, that are driving people to Clay County or even further up to make sure that they are held accountable. So, all right, do we have a first reading?
First reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? Motion passes.
An ordinance adopting and approving a cooperative agreement identified as the Clay County Detention Center Detainee Housing Agreement between Clay County, Missouri and the city of North Kansas City, Missouri for the housing of city prisoners.
I move that bill number 7966 be placed on second and final reading and pass as ordinance number 9763.
Second.
Call the roll.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Salinas?
Yes.
Councilmember Click?
Yes.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember Bailey?
Yes.
Councilmember McGrone?
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Councilmember Alvarez?
Yes.
And can I ask who made the second on that? Okay, thanks.
All right, item 14.
Presentation on boards and commissions.
All right, Mr. Barzee has prepared a brief slideshow presentation for our viewing pleasure.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, a little while back, I was requested took me a little bit of time to get it done, but I was reminded I needed to do it, a presentation this evening. And since I gave you a detailed memo, I thought the easiest way is to make a very short and kind of succinct, hopefully you'll find, report to you using a PowerPoint. And here's what we're going to cover in the next few minutes, an overview of what the boards and commissions do, very broad, and how appointments are made, where the authority comes from, and then what to expect of those individuals. Primarily, boards are made up, as you can imagine, of residents of this city. In not every case are they a resident of the city. For example, we have some on the hospital board. They would have to all be residents. If we only had the minimum number of 5, they all have to be residents of the city. But we have an 11 board membership on the hospital board of trustees, and so up to 2 of them can be doctors and other non-residents of the city. And then here's how the appointments actually work. At least it's typical. You have an application, there's a vacancy, or there's recruitment to get someone for a board. The mayor appoints, the council approves, and then sometimes I'm a little concerned that the next item doesn't get taken care of, the onboarding, where they're oriented, they're given some information about sunshine laws, just so you know this. All boards and commissions are covered by the sunshine law. They have to follow the same sunshine law that you folks have to follow. And then where does the authority come from for these different boards and commissions? You can see those listed on the left are from state law, and then we also have local ordinances and bylaws that cover some of the others. And then here's at a glance, I tried to put it in one table. We certainly are not going to review each one of those. You had those before you, but as you'll notice, I thought something really kind of interesting when I put it in a table. It really takes quite a few of residents primarily to be on your boards and commissions. And they serve an important function, okay, because they provide information to you folks in most instances, though not all, to make choices and decisions. Most things ultimately are decided here, though not all. For example, the Board of Zoning Adjustment, that's a quasi-judicial place. Well, we'll get to it in a minute. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. But we have right here on this page, which I call Land Use and Development, we have the Planning Commission, which is primarily advisory to you folks, and we have the Board of Zoning Adjustment, which is, I've listed above, it's a quasi-judicial thing because an appeal from there does not come to you folks like someone's turned down on something. It ends up as a general rule, depending on what the item is, it will end up being litigated. Fortunately, we haven't had a lot of those, but again, in both instances, as you'll see there, they are provided, they have different memberships, et cetera, but nevertheless, they are appointed by the mayor with the approval of you folks, the governing body of the council. Then I call it the quality of life, library and parks. A library board and parks board, they're a little bit different. They still appointment by the mayor with the approval of the council. However, and they are 9-body citizen members, but the state statute, for example, as an example here, they, get to the right one here, the library board, you can only serve 3 terms on it consecutively, okay? Then if you want to be on it again, you have to sit out, so to speak, for 2 years. Also, the state law prohibits any member of city government from serving on the library board. That's a preclusion. Again, let me get to the next one here. Police and Fire Personnel Board and the Police and Firefighters Retirement Fund Board. I'll call it the Retirement Fund, the pension fund, whatever you want to call it, that board there is pretty much all established by what the state statute says, and it provides, really, those things don't get to you all that much, except from time to time, they will ask you to amend your city code. We've had ordinance changes over the years. In fact, I think we've had one in the last year or so that we brought forward. For example, the mayor, the city attorney. I'm not the city attorney, I'm the city councilor. The city attorney, the city treasurer, the police chief, the fire chief, or their designee sits on there, as well as an elected individual, I believe, that represents the rest of the fire and police personnel. Now, this is based on a state statute that actually only provides for a merit system police department, okay? But in a council many years ago, even before my time, in their infinite wisdom, they wanted to make sure that the firefighters were covered the same way, and so they put them together. I want to say one thing about the Police and Fire Personnel Board. In addition to their function about submitting a list from which the city is required to pick from of eligibles for different positions, one thing, and hopefully knock on, we don't have it too often, and over the years we used to have it more frequently, and that is if an officer or a firefighter is demoted, fired, or otherwise disciplined, they have the right to appeal that to the Fire and Police Personnel Board. And there's a court reporter there's a full-blown hearing, and then if they don't like the result, that can be appealed to the Circuit Court of Clay County. We've even had them a number of years ago, a case that went to up to the Court of Appeals. In fact, we've had several over the years that have gone to the Court of Appeals. Fortunately, that's been a number of years since those things have happened. Then a little bit different type than many cities have, and that is a hospital, this city's hospital, okay? And it spells out in here specific things. One thing, if you will note, though, there are some state statute restrictions on who can serve on it. And one thing is, they're appointed by the mayor with your approval. But one thing that makes this a little bit interesting is that you cannot be a member of the city council or any member of your family by state statute that sits on the hospital board. The mayor, I believe, is the liaison to the hospital board, but he's not a member of the board. As a matter of fact, my guess would be if they go into an executive session, they would exclude him from that. I've not attended their meetings, but they pretty much function on a day-to-day basis, certainly by state law, on their own, and we don't have any real say in that. There will be times from time to time that they come, and they might ask, for example, if they wanted, and they do this occasionally, they want to do a revenue bond for the hospital. That's actually done through the city, and therefore they have to come and they would ask that. But their day-to-day operations in all ways are pretty much handled by the hospital board. The Liquor Control Board of Review that we have, 3 members that serve on this, they hear complaints or whatever that come through that deal with our liquor control ordinance. But what you need to remember on this, state law really governs liquor, alcohol very, very carefully. And as a result, their jurisdiction on what they can do is very, very limited. Again, the members are appointed by the mayor with the approval of the council. and they only meet as needed, kind of like some of the other boards. The Board of Zoning Adjustment, they only meet when they're needed. And I didn't mention this, I believe the Police and Fire Pension Board meets like quarterly or whatever. I think that's part of their procedure. Okay, finally here, a couple of other types of commissions or whatever. We have Tax Increment Financing Commission. I'll just point out, since we have a TIF in our city, the commission was originally formed when prior to Northgate being done. But some of you may have been around. In 2022, we amended our ordinance because of two things. The county changed its form of government, and secondly, we had an increase in population that required us to do it. There's still 12 members on the board, on the TIF commission for this city, but the mayor only gets to appoint, you only get to approve 3 at this point in time. It used to be 6. You get 3 members. The others, 6 of them, are appointed by the presiding commissioner of Clay County. And then the IDA, the Industrial Development Authority, there are 5 directors appointed by the mayor with the council approval. They serve, I might add, staggered terms intentionally, and it's set forth in the Articles of Incorporation, and the directors must be qualified electors and taxpayers to serve on this particular, I'll call it a board, the Industrial Development Authority here in North Kansas City. And this is used on an as-needed basis, and it's for development purposes, and a lot of times things are issued under their names, so it's a separate legal entity, it's a separate articles of incorporation like a private corporation that might be formed. However, before it could be formed, the city council had to take action to authorize it to be formed. And so an ordinance was passed prior to the Articles of Incorporation being done. And then lastly, I put on here, they're neither really a board or a commission, but just to let you know, we have the Crummett Beautification Fund Committee, as well as the Community Enrichment Advisory Committee. And that one, of course, the members, it's a little bit different appointment being made by council members, as well as, I think it's in there that at-large appointment as well. Now, here's some things that sometimes I think we need to understand, and I'm not sure always, in fairness to the members of these boards and commissions. I apologize, I didn't put the compost committee on there with the other. I apologize. That was an unintentional. If I would have known you were going to be here tonight, I certainly would have included it. Nevertheless, there are certain expectations and there are certain guardrails that the law puts, both ordinance as well as state law, as well as even bylaws for the boards and commissions. Okay? And what we need to understand is most of these meetings that are held are to be open meetings with proper notice given, agendas posted just like they are here for the city. They're to keep minutes and records. That's required. And just like for you, closed sessions are limited, but they are appropriate from time to time when so necessary. Let's see here. I think I covered all of that. And then I've listed over to the right of people that are on it. And then I wanted to hit this for sure, and I will leave this one up for a few minutes. I want to make sure people know, if there is anyone out there listening, that in fact there is a process if you would like to be on a board or commission for this city and you meet whatever the criteria are for that particular board. And so I'll let you know where to go, the person to go. You complete the application. Your application is kept on file for consideration when a vacancy occurs. If selected, it's almost always a mayor appointment with the approval of the council. And then, they don't have to do this, but if they're interested in going to a board, since they are open meetings, before they might apply to be on a board, they might want to go and attend a board meeting or two just to see, well, what do these people do and what do they talk about, et cetera. So without anything else, I think I met your time requirement, Mr. Mayor. If you have any questions, because I think this might lead into a discussion that you're about to have.
Very good. Thank you for putting that together.
Sure.
I gave Tom a hard cap at 10 minutes when we only went 17, so we're good. Yeah. That is in Tom years, that is 2 or 3 minutes. Very good. Thank you for that. That was a great presentation. One clarification piece so I saw some folks on the composting committee looking around like, are we doing this wrong? Ad hoc committees are different. So ad hoc committees are citizen-led. They are not beholden to the same open records.
Exactly,
rules.
and that is a different kind of committee. I was kind of joking with you folks.
Yeah.
The others actually in our ordinance book even. The one on the whatever the last one was called there.
Community enrichment.
Community Enrichment Committee is actually identified and described how everything goes in our city code.
Yep. Yes, so that's the key difference between ad hoc and official ones is the list of rules that they must adhere to. Ad hoc committees can meet whenever they're available. They can correspond cell phones or emails, however they want to, and they're not beholden to open records. They are also citizen-formed. They're not the same appointment process. Any questions for Mr. Barzee on his presentation? Excellent. Before we jump into item 15, I want to ask, is it okay to move an item up on the agenda? Okay. I see Bryce hanging out back here, and I don't want to stick you here for the next, I don't know how long these next ones are going to go. So if we want to move to item 17 real fast.
Consideration of an ordinance regarding calendar year 2026 KCATA service contract amendment, Route 238, bill number 7965, ordinance number 9762.
All right, so this is kind of codifying what we talked about last meeting. We're moving the hours a little bit, and then hopefully come April 5th, I want to say, we're going to start back to where the bus will start in North Kansas City and make its way through. The memo lays out the cost difference and all of that. So are there any questions while we have Bryce in the house? All right, do we have a first reading?
First reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
An ordinance adopting and approving an amended and restated contract for transit service for fixed routes 201 and 238 by and between the City of North Kansas City, Missouri and the Kansas City Area Transportation Authority for public transportation services within the City of North Kansas City, Missouri.
Should we bring him up here anyway, just for fun? No, kidding.
Get out of here. Thanks for being here.
I move that bill number 7965 to be placed on second and final reading and passes as ordinance number 9762.
Call the roll.
Councilmember Clark? Yes. Councilmember Salinas?
Yes.
Councilmember Click?
Yes.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember Bailey?
Yes.
Councilmember McGrone?
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Councilmember Alvarez?
Yes.
An ordinance adopting and approving an amended and restated contract for transit service for fixed routes 201 and 238 by and between the City of North Kansas City, Missouri and the Kansas City Area Transportation Authority for public transportation services within the City of North Kansas City, Missouri.
Excellent. Okay, now we're going to get back online. Item 15.
Discussion of nomination process to boards and commissions.
All right, so dovetailing off of Tom's excellent presentation, I want to discuss a potential change, and I want to get council's input on this. So when I was elected, I came in and filled a bunch of empty seats. I think we had between 35 and 40% of the seats on boards and commissions that were all listed out were not filled at that point. So we got them all filled up through the appointment process that Tom laid out, where mayor appoints, the council reviews the resumes and the applications, and then approves or doesn't. And through that, when I was filling those seats, I would work with Parks Board, I would work with the Library Board, the Parks Director, Library Director, ask how people have been on the committee. I would send resumes over to them to ask which of these would you select as credentialed, who would be a good fit for your board. Taking all that input, then make the decision, pass it to council as the legislative body that then gets to make the approval vote. So with that, and the goal of having the most qualified people that have put their name in the hat on each of these city boards, I would propose that we try a way to just focus on their credentials by removing personally identifiable information from the approval process. Now, I spoke to Tom 3 minutes before the meeting, and he has some legal concerns if this is something that the council wants to pursue. First question, do we want to remove address and contact information from, do we want to redact that from resumes and applications that are submitted for boards and commissions?
That are submitted entirely, or that are attached to an agenda that is therefore seen by the public?
So they would come in with all that information on them. Before it would go onto an agenda, it would be redacted.
Yes, I would say yes.
So contact, address, redact. Go ahead.
What were the legal concerns?
We'll get there in a second.
Okay.
That's the second question. Second question, do we want to remove the name from the approval process?
I've been thinking about this since the agenda came out on Friday, and I think that would give me some reservations to remove the names. You know, I know I've had situations where constituents have reached out to me in favor or not in favor of a candidate, and I'd be worried, completely scrubbing that takes away some of the, potential public input. I could see a situation where there might still be ways to give more transparency, like maybe if we could see like a candidate list of everyone who was considered for the position with like a description on why that nominee was your nominee. Okay. Might, still get a lot of focus on the qualifications and why this person was more qualified over somebody else, but not take the public's ability to input what they want their representatives to, vote for or against.
So to that end, if the public wants to have input, they're more than welcome to. They would have the same agenda with the same redacted resume and application. What I'm trying to do is get grudges off the table, right? We're in a small community. People know people. People have had experiences and there's bad blood flowing through some people. For one reason or another, they may not like an individual, but if they saw their resume and their qualifications, they could still look and say, like, these are qualifications that I would support, and remove the personal, if that makes any sense. They could still have the chance to look at what's there, what's being presented for their qualifications, and it takes it away from focused on who that person is and any semantics that go there versus what does their resume and the application say.
It's a tough spot because at the end of the day, it is volunteers, volunteering for roles they don't have to do the time and effort to do. But it also, as we just saw from Tom, some of these are really important roles where, have boards that can levy taxes and, are overseeing the hospital, this huge asset of the city, and just, I have some pause of doing that completely anonymously and not knowing, obviously qualifications should be a massive consideration and transparency about that, but just, I'm worried some transparency can also be lost if you get to a point where we don't know who we're voting on.
Sure. Councilmember McGrone.
I agree with Councilmember Fitzgerald. I don't as the council person that would be voting for someone to be on a board or commission, I don't want to hire somebody who I don't know. I'm not going to hire somebody without a name. I fully support redacting somebody's address and phone number and their contact information from the public-facing documents that are attached to the agenda. But just as you say that some people hold grudges, some people also hold a lot of fondness for their neighbors. Some people are very warm and appreciative of their neighbors. And if they see somebody's name, nominated for the library board or the planning commission, they might think, oh my goodness, that person would be wonderful. I should come and speak in favor of them. I think there are far more people who approach life from that direction than would come and hold a grudge against someone because they see a name on a board, as being nominated for a board. I agree with Fitzgerald too, is that it's a volunteer position. Nobody on a board and commission gets paid. They are all spending a lot of their time, especially on the hospital board. That is a very time-intensive board, and I think we want to encourage more people to apply. I don't think that keeping a name from people is going to encourage or discourage people. I think what it would do is create less transparency and more secrecy in what we're doing, and I feel icky about it. I wouldn't want to go in that way.
Councilmember Saber.
The thing is, things like addresses and telephone numbers are readily accessible. And so that doesn't really, if you have the name. And so what we're doing is actually reducing transparency, and I'm generally in favor of as much transparency as possible.
Okay. Other thoughts? Councilmember Alvarez?
I guess just to add confusion, that there's also the flip side of favoritism. Maybe somebody that you like or you're friends with, maybe not as qualified as the next person either. So if you want to base it just on their qualifications, I could see why maybe not having the name, but I don't know which really is better. So I don't know.
I have heard through the community that it is a deterrent to put your name in for a volunteer position that will take up a lot of your time, to then have the risk of someone speaking out badly while your application is being considered. Go ahead.
One further thing, the application process, if you look at their resume and what they've done, what they bring in their experience, but it doesn't actually go to judgment. And that's an important part of anybody's actions in a business, in a city council, or anything else. And you need to have that kind of openness. And if you know that person, you may or may not have a sense of their ability to make judgment.
Go ahead.
I think that, also what somebody puts forward on a resume in an application is what they want to put forward and might not tell the whole story about a person. So I'll give an example that is kind of prescient to this council. If Tom or Jesse decided that they wanted to apply for planning commission and they weren't on city council or mayor at the time, they would put an application in. Nowhere on that application does it ask if you own property that is more than your own. Nowhere does it ask if you own 7 or 8 or 9 houses in North Kansas City. Nowhere does it ask if you're interested in renting those, in keeping those or selling those. There's a lot more information about a person that you gather by knowing who they are and knowing their name. And you don't get that when you just get what they have chosen to show you. So I get that there are people who might be afraid to put their name in the running because people might come and speak against them at council when they're nominated. But I don't think that we should make judgments for the entirety of our boards and commission application process because some people might have that fear. I think that there's a lot more we gain by knowing who it is that we're appointing and having access to more information about them than what they have chosen to show us.
Councilmember Clark.
I guess, yeah. I think in some of the experiences we've all walked through, in mentioning names and things like that, maybe a change up could just be when we're discussing a particular candidate, maybe just saying the candidate, knowing their name, but just speaking as the candidate, so that you could say, I'm in support of this candidate, I'm not in support of this candidate, and use it that way, so that it doesn't have to feel like, potential of a smear of a name, or nobody likes to hear their name multiple times. I certainly never like to hear my full name, because I feel like my mom's around and I got to leave town. But yeah, I think it's that. It's maybe we just change it up in that format, where that formality exists, where we just kind of extend that to just say the candidate, but we know who the candidate is and we're aware of it, but we don't have to speak that person's name out loud until we make the decision to say we would like to nominate, or we approve the nomination of this person. I mean, versus redacting their name. Because, yeah, I agree. Like, the names have to exist. And we do, when we're evaluating, we talk to the boards to say, how do you get along with this person? Or what has been your interaction with this particular person? We like that feedback, because you want to make sure these committees are going to stay intact and everybody wants to participate. So, but I can see, I like that we're talking through these concerns, because they are valid concerns.
Valid point there, especially with the, if you want to interact or ask how they've interacted on boards. Now, if somebody's already on a board, I could see their name coming along with a reapproval. But it sounds like the will of the council is to continue keeping names on, so there goes your legal concern. That was the legal concern, is are we putting something forth that we don't know who we're voting on? A lot of the concerns that were enumerated. My goal is to find a process that is welcoming to all, even those who are nervous about jumping in the ring. And obviously, after an approval, their name would be known, and then they could be criticized writ large, as many of us have found. So we'll continue to explore, and if others have thoughts on how we can make this process more welcoming, I am open to that. If you have anything off the rip, go ahead. Otherwise, we can think about it and come back another meeting. Very good. So we will we'll redact the personal the contact info, addresses and phone numbers. So whenever you send one over for an agenda, knock it all out. Very good. All right, moving on to item 16.
Bedford Pumping Station, sewer rate impact analysis of project financing with long-term debt.
I need a little longer than Tom.
Oh, yeah.
How do you follow that? That was a good presentation. Okay, I'll keep it short. It was napkin, I remember right, napkin math was the request also. This is based off of the engineer's presentation of the master plan 2 weeks ago. Part of that was Bedford Pumping Station. They had two recommendations. One was replacement, one was rehabilitation. So the my presentation, is it? Okay, sorry. So replacement was 7.68 million. Rehabilitation was 6.82. I would like to stress it was a master plan, and this was the engineer's planning estimate. So, I mean, actual cost or anticipated cost won't come in until design and all that. I mean, these should be good ballpark, but it could change.
How much should we add? So we know how this goes.
That's impossible to know at this
25, 30,
Right.
40%?
These are planning level estimates. That's really hard to know at this
Right.
point.
Okay, perfect.
I will say some engineers are very conservative on those estimates, but basically we won't know. They should be somewhere.
Yep.
Generally. Okay, based on that, the other thing that they threw in there, just to give the council context, was looking at long-term debt financing through the state revolving fund, Missouri DNR. They looked at 20 years and 30 years. 30 years, they had right around, what was it, 350,000.
Yep.
20 years was 450,000. So just giving you a little background for what I did with this analysis. So based on that, I targeted 450,000 over 20 years. Just figured go for the worst case and the largest amount. So a little bit, sorry, I'm not keeping up with the clicker, am I? A little bit of our system overview, just to give you guys a little more context. This is 2025 calendar year data, 2,072 accounts. The interesting part of those accounts, the smallest meter is 5/8 inch, and 75% of those are that 5/8. Of those 5/8, about 60% of the meters are residential meters. That's the lowest base rate. But again, letting you know how many, what percent the residents make up of our accounts, our sewer accounts. Now, that being said, they're about 5% of the usage, the actual consumption, or discharge in this case. So think about 75% of all the accounts represent 5% of what Kansas City treats for us. So that even stresses that our revenue is driven primarily by our high volume users. As you'll see here in a little bit, we have one user that is 47% almost of everything. So, current rate structure, roughly about 12.7 million is what we bring in on revenue. Over 90% of that is from our volumetric. Our base rate is low, but because of the high volume, that generates all the revenue. Base rates are approximately 7% of our revenue. Flipping through. So what I did is I took, trying to hit that $450,000 target, ended up 3.5%. You'll see here in a little bit, it actually generates $446,000. I mean, it could go to 3.5. I think it was 0.913 got to that exact. But I figured for this, 99% was.
So glad you got us out to 4 decimal points.
Well, I had to see what it was. I mean, you know me.
Well done.
So what that does to the rate per 1,000 gallons, moves it from 1060 to 1097. Base rates I didn't touch in this case. I can tell you real quick, it's not in here, but if we did base rates alone, it would be $16 per account per month. It's a big jump. If you think about that, that's over half of what the rate currently is. So, moving on, the revenue impact, as I mentioned, $446,000 is what a 3.5% increase in the flow rate, volumetric rate, creates. So it does meet, the target in this analysis. So what does that mean to the residential customer? $1.03. Now you'll see in the memo for all 5/8 inch meters, it's $1.31. But I stripped out the residential, thinking that that's what people are going to grasp. So that's $1.03 a month with a 3.5% increase. So minimal impact for the average residential account. Now, the high volume users, you can imagine the large meter customers contribute, or as I said, they contribute a large majority. But of the new revenue, it would be 36% of that $446,000 that would be generated would come from the large users. As mentioned earlier, approximately 45% is one user. So it talks about, applying the rate effectively over all the accounts, being equitable. It's all based on consumption. Gives you an idea of our users. As mentioned, revenue total, 8.8 from the 5/8 meters, 44.7 from one user, and then all the others are at 46.5. So some of the key takeaways, the rate increase that was applied, 3.5%. I think it's equitable. It's one way to do it. It's straightforward. It's easy to administer, and it protects the affordability for the residential customers. there are some, looking forward, it's good to keep in mind that, I mean, our system does rely heavily on a handful of large users. So we'll still want to work with our financial advisors to look down, at the different funding options. I did this based off of a state revolving fund, but it's still a loan at a rate, trying to calculate an average payment. So we'll work with Columbia Capital. The big thing is figuring out with Bedford Lift Station. We want to get a task order going. Do we go for replace or rehab? I'd say we'd be lucky to get one back by next. I mean, we might have one by the next meeting, a task order. But it's something, from the engineers. There's I hate to place and use the word urgency, but we could really use some direction. Hopefully this helps.
Yeah.
With some of the discussion.
All right. Thank you for putting the numbers together so fast, and thorough job. Really appreciate that. One thing that jumps out as I'm looking at this, 65% of our revenue, so we have what would be termed a concentration risk, where our repayment is concentrated very few users. So if we go down one of these, two not great options, repair or replace, and we take on bonds, we're obligated to those bonds. What happens if we lose one of our major users?
We have to make the revenue up somehow.
We just got to find it.
Yeah.
And that, we're talking potentially 45% of the revenue
Correct.
Could vanish with the whims of it. And while doing this, we're also increasing their monthly cost by, I think it's $10,000.
Almost 18.
18,000. Okay, 17. Yep. Oh, that's the monthly. Yeah. So 17,008. Not nothing.
Right.
But it is one of those things where. So the other part that jumped out at me on this chart is the percent of total revenue versus percent of consumption, which is kind of odd. So for example, 5/8 meters, 5.5% of consumption, 8.8% of revenue. So basically overpaying for consumption versus the top user, 48% of consumption, 44.7 revenue. Is there a reason that we're like not right size on it? Is it the base charge that's making that difference?
It's the total consumption versus the number of accounts. I mean, it's just a huge amount for a town our size. It's about the right number of accounts.
Sure, but I'm
the
thinking
total
more.
Consumption is.
You would, in an ideal situation, percent consumption would match percent revenue. Like people are paying for what they consume. At this point, it looks like the 5/8 are paying, 40% more than they consume, while the large users are paying less than their consumption. Just an oddity, and there's an inflection point right around the 3-inch meter where it kind of equalizes. That just seems unusual. I don't know if we can do something to right-size that.
You mean as far as the base rates?
I don't know what it would take.
Is that what you're?
I think my guess is that
along.
it's the base rate that's making up the difference, because the base rate as a percentage of a residential customer's bill is a larger percent than anyone else's, because it's a lower total number. I'm just curious if there's anything we can do to get closer to people just paying for their true consumption. See Anthony squinting hard at this.
Trying to follow as well. I'm not quite sure what.
So chart on page 2, right in the middle, says all accounts, and then start at the top, 5/8.
Mm-hmm.
Percent of total consumption, 5.5%. So 5/8 meters are consuming 5.5% of the total water used. That's what that column would suggest. Percent of total revenue, the 5/8 accounts are paying 8.8% of the total revenue.
I can answer. It's because their average consumption is so low, but they make up, like I said, 75% of all the accounts. So in that case, the base rates, if you look, or if you think about their average consumption being, what was it, roughly 3,000. So you're talking about, I got to think about this, 330.
And most are getting charged the base rate as their number, because I think what's our base, 3,500 gallons?
No, that's water is where there's where there's this sewer, there's a base rate and then full consumption.
Got it.
So for residential, 2,700 was about the average usage. So you're looking at the meter rate, 25 or 2749 plus roughly 2.7 or 270. Is that right? No, $20 and $27.
Yeah, so it's that fixed charge that's making up the difference.
Right. Right. Commercial, right.
Yep.
They still pay a monthly.
There's additional actual real cost to it. Okay.
Here we go.
Yeah.
See what?
I didn't mean to open up a can of worms here.
I'm going to double check that number too, because actually on the wastewater side, when we think about user rates, we're also including in that the surcharge. That is a pretty big chunk. So let me go and just verify that number really quick, because when I saw it initially, it made sense. But now that I'm hearing that, the surcharge takes up a pretty big chunk of the revenue. And I just want to relook at that one,
Sure.
because I don't think that it's the case where it's that big of a difference.
Okay.
But I can double check that with the surcharge, which can vary widely year to year, and we've also increased the rates on that too. So let me just double check that number before.
Okay. Yeah, the only reason I ask is because I would be willing to explore some options to right size the consumption versus the total revenue and how it seems pretty out of balance. But as far as this goes, the bottom line is $1.03 impact monthly to a customer if we were to go the route, and that's on the 20-year $450,
Correct.
not the 30-year $350.
Correct.
So that's one. So I appreciate that. The other question to the council is repair or replace. And I know Councilmember Bailey took a tour of the facility today. So do you have thoughts you want to share?
Yeah, I want to just say thanks to Anthony, three of his staff, John Sponsler, Justin Serino, and David Wendt, for taking me on a walkthrough. I would say, having been in facilities not altogether dissimilar than this, not exactly wastewater, but large industrial facilities, it was an enjoyable tour. I would say Bedford Station is in a worse scenario than I had expected from the presentation last meeting. It is certainly worrisome. It was built over 40 years ago. It was not intended to be a lift station when it was built. We have cobbled it together into that. So it was, and when it was transferred over to being a pumping station instead of just a lift station, it was done at that time's capacity. We have since expanded since that changeover, so we are under capacity with old technology. The infrastructure itself, the material creates hydrogen sulfide, which eats steel and concrete, so there's not much left to build off. There's no bones. There's much less good bones to work off there. I would concur with last meeting sentiment that we should evaluate that for a complete new facility nearby. In addition, that conversation led into a tour of the 19th Street lift station, which has many of the same challenges. I know we very briefly discussed that at the last meeting. It includes many of the same challenges. It's not as bad. It's still functioning as a lift station and not just a pumping station. But overall, it could still definitely benefit. I think there's some added benefit of evaluating design and at least design, maybe build at the same time for both facilities in one go. I think there's some synergies there. I don't think we're going to get all that far down the road without rebuilding something there too as a very large capital project. So I do think that at least part of this process, we should evaluate both. We did have a conversation about the third lift station, but it is substantially different in design, and I believe that should certainly be pushed off into the future as we look at these two large capital projects.
So I appreciate you taking the time to go walk and look and evaluate. Anthony, thank you for setting that up. The 19th Street piece, in the report, they said, new pump should take care of things. I think it was a few $100,000 versus a full $7.6 million build the new station. In your view, how much runtime do we have on 19th Street?
To be fair, the master planning effort took a deeper dive with Bedford than it did with 19th Avenue. In 2024, we had Olson look at 19th Avenue, in kind of a separate capacity, and they basically arrived at the same conclusion after taking a deeper dive there, that same kind of conclusion that Vinster and Kim ended up with Bedford. You end up, as Tom was saying, which was really well said, your bones are, not left that much, so you're looking at replacing all the equipment inside the station, pumps, electrical, mechanical, everything. Then you're looking at the shell, and the shell being from 1949, you're really limited. There's some other things, they were built, decades apart. The 19th Avenue came first, and then Bedford. And so one did not consider the other, when it was initially designed. And they work off of each other. One basically lifts 2/3 of the town's waste stream to the next one. And then the next one lifts it to Buckeye in Kansas City. So they all kind of work in a chain. And that's kind of where we're talking about with the design process. It would be very beneficial to look at Bedford in the design with the design of 19th Avenue. Again, 1949 was a lot different situation when it comes to capacity. It doesn't meet some of the volumetric requirements of a new lift station, and that gets really into the framework of the bones. Your tank, if you will, is only so big for 1949 versus today's standards. Definitely looking at tomorrow's, capacity, what we need. So you're kind of starting with a really difficult, fundamental change to the station if you're just looking at restoration. Where that kicks it into that again, if you rebuild, you're changing the volume of it, you're actually right-sizing it for the city, and then potentially right-sizing it for future expansion that could happen.
So if we go with the replacement route at Bedford, which I think is the right way to go at this point, are we going to then necessitate 19th Avenue getting brought up as well?
I don't think Bedford would necessitate 19th Avenue, but I think that just the look at the system in its entirety would necessitate a replacement of 19th.
It will involve looking at 19th, though, because they have to talk.
Of course.
So regardless, Bedford, when they're doing the design, it's going to involve 19th.
Sure.
And that would be when they might find.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out if we're spending 7.6 or 15.2 out the gate, and then how much can we push through rate-wise before we run off the largest user and payer on the system. So it gets to a pretty decent inflection point. Obviously, we need to design them together. Go ahead, Councilmember Saber.
Yeah, so if I can summarize this, what I think you're saying is that 19th Street does need to be taken care of, but not as urgently as Bedford. And we can stage these, and if we can stage them, what's your sort of gut feeling as to the timeline of staging?
I think they would come talking to the staging time, I think they would come right after each other. I don't think you wouldn't put many years in between replacing one than the other. Bedford is the entire city. So I think, I do like that the analysis concluded with, kind of focus in on Bedford. Because without Bedford, you're not moving the waste from the entire city. But not to discredit 19th, I mean, it's very important. It's 2/3 of the city and probably the bigger 2/3 that we'd be looking at for redevelopment. So that would really come into play, if the city grows substantially in different times. And has already actually with the redevelopment we have. All the more recent redevelopment in the last 5 years is all going straight to 19th before it goes to Bedford. So I wouldn't want to put too much time in between them. I think it's fair to say they're both in the same condition, that you're not looking at much better conditions at 19th Avenue than Bedford. But starting with the biggest capital improvement and then moving to the next would probably be the right chain. So
you're talking about a year or two between them at best?
That would probably be ideal, yeah.
Okay, but the planning could be done initially for both of them.
It should be done together, yes.
As a set, essentially.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Is there another option? So we would be looking at revenue bonds. Are there GO bonds or other things that we could put in place for this?
So GO bonds are going to require a vote.
Correct.
Revenue bonds, as long as you pledge the revenue through the rates, then
Yeah, revenue
It's
bonds can be
just the
approved.
council.
But
Right.
yeah, I mean, at a certain point, what I don't want us to do is be so beholden to a single user.
Right.
Because if we green light this, we're really exposing ourselves. And so having that secondary funding source, even if it has to go through a public vote, which could be messy, but like people, again, it seems like an easy pitch. You don't want sewage backing up in the entire city. But then things like SB 190 would impact that, am I right? Because then the bonds that get voted through would not be paid for by the senior tax freeze.
Well, that's if this is paid through property tax.
If go bond,
Right.
it gets paid
Right,
through.
that would be a property tax.
Yeah.
Right. Ballot issue.
And so then that's a real.
It can be done. I mean, there's multiple. There's capital improvement sales taxes. For lack of a, Nick and I have discussed multiple options, and this is something that Columbia Capital will also help us out with. But even loans to utility funds from the gaming fund, with an interest, with a payback. They're options.
Okay.
There's a whole lot to look at.
I would like to see Columbia, I mean, maybe they already are churning on this, and then making sure that we're clear about the impact of something like an SB 190 or whatever the heck the legislature is going
Right.
to work through in this session, would be on our ability to bond and then pay those bonds back. Because I don't want to delay the process because this is an imminent issue, but I also don't want to get us out over our skis where we can't pay for the bonds or pay for the debt.
Yeah, I think it sounds to me like we do need to move as expeditiously as possible with this. There's nothing to be gained by delaying. And as far as the funding mechanism, there's a variety, and we need to explore all of them to see which is best for the city and for the people who live here.
Right. Other thoughts? Okay, so am I hearing replace? Replace, a lot of head nods there. Plan 19th in tandem, so go ahead and make the design all work together, and then bring it back to us when we need to spend another however many million on replacing 19th. In the interim, let's get Columbia Capital mobilized to figure out how we're going to pay for all of it. Excellent. Any other thoughts or questions? Very good. Skipping past 17, because we already did it. Item 18.
Consideration of an ordinance approving accounts due and payable by the city through January 30th, 2026, Bill number 7967, ordinance number 9764.
First reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through January 30th, 2026.
I move that bill number 7967 to be placed on second and final reading and passes as ordinance number 9764.
Second.
Call the roll.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Salinas?
Yes.
Councilmember Clitt?
Yes.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember Bailey?
Yes.
Councilmember Monroe?
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Councilmember Alvarez?
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through January 30th, 2026.
Excellent. Staff comments.
Did you have anything? Yeah, I was going to bring up. Yeah. Do you have anything else? The only thing we have tonight is I think Mayor Smith alluded to strategic planning process a little bit earlier in the meeting. Was something we wanted to ask about is getting an RFP out for that process again. We'd be looking at probably May, late April, May. As of right now, the goal would be a Saturday morning, but finding a consultant that would do questionnaires and interviews with each of you and department directors, management staff, but then setting up the actual planning process all together for like a 4 or 5 hour session on a Saturday morning, trying to cut down on that time. But we want to get an RFP out, but we got to have a date, kind of some dates. So what we were wondering is putting out a doodle.
Yeah, doodle
kind of
poll.
with some weekends in April, May to kind of see if
Saturday mornings. I know how much Councilmember Saper loves coming in on Saturday morning to, well, in particular,
or
yeah.
10 to 2, or are there certain times that work? Yeah.
Well, I think if we're pointing out to early spring, let's go ahead and get the RFP out, and we'll circle a date through a poll, figure out what we're.
We thought we could.
Say it in the mic.
I was just saying dates might get kind of, if you're talking like May or April, just know there'll be some new people seated in April, so dates might get kind of weird to pick that now and then have a.
Yeah, it's kind of the nature of the beast. If if you get elected, you're coming in knowing what you're in for.
That's true.
Hey, run for it. If you can't make it, then don't. Anyways, so yeah, I think May is probably fair because then we'll have at least a meeting or two for the new folks. All right. Any other staff? Crystal, anything for us? No? Chief Williams? No?
Somebody?
Last chance? Anybody? Going once? Casey? Okay. Council member comments, starting with Council member Clark.
All right. Wi-Fi connected. Yeah, from the Parks Board meeting, considerations for additional building for parks maintenance. To increase longevity of their equipment. I didn't look at the comments last week to know if it was covered, but I have these from my meeting in January. It'll be, they're looking at a whole facade, insulated garage doors, all the things. So that's coming up. It's pretty exciting. House Street Playground is in kind of thought planning stage. I thought about touching base with the Historic Society, North Castillo Historic Society, to see if they want to incorporate ideas for a theme for the new park. There's also going to be mural considerations coming up. And the Parks Board retreat is this Saturday, February 7th. So that's it for me.
Excellent. Councilmember Salinas.
I just want to thank everybody that came in today, and of course you city staff that just do amazing work. I don't really have much to say today.
Councilmember Click.
I won't say too much because I can't. I don't have COVID or the flu. I checked, I promise, before I came in here. I will just say thank you, city staff. And something I say a lot, call your representatives. There was a situation, I think just last week, where a lot of people called and some changes were kind of made on the federal level. So if you're seeing things that you don't like happening, make sure, take the 5 minutes, 3 minutes, make a phone call. They do count. They do matter.
Councilmember Saber.
I think people are starting to see that we're hitting a period in which we're not as flush as we once were, and we have a lot more obligations coming up. And for a city that's been debt-free for a while, we're entering a new period, and we have to be very, very careful about how we approach it and how we do it. We can't be cavalier about it, and we need input from the citizens and residents and businesses of North Kansas City about how we go about this. Thank you.
Councilmember Bailey.
Very well spoken. Once again, wanted to thank the Public Works team.
Dr. McGrone.
Thanks for getting our streets cleared so fast during the last snow thing. I don't know, just thanks to everybody for engaging in really good conversation about difficult topics. Just as Councilmember Saper said, we've got hard things to talk about, and that's probably another reason why some people feel a little intimidated about wanting to run for city council or get on a board or commission, because there are hard things to talk about. And I think there's a lot of people who have a lot of things that they want to contribute and say, and just know that we all want to hear your voice and the city needs you. So please consider applying and getting more involved.
I will probably miss our next meeting being out of town, and we'll be moving pretty soon, most likely. So this has a good chance to be my last meeting. So, I've been here about 3.5 years. I've enjoyed working with everybody in city staff and everybody up here. So, thank you all. I'm trying to think if I had any takeaways. You always hear me about the budget. Tony already covered some of this, but I think we've proposed a budget with a deficit of at least $10 million, if not more, every year that I've been on council. That's clearly not sustainable. So, doing what we can to get items in the budget that are both achievable and we can afford in the upcoming year, and not other things, I think would benefit our financial controls. And also, when we get our external financial audit, they tend to give us some findings. I know from being on the auditor side of that the findings, how do I say it? A lot of findings don't get communicated up to that top level. So when significant deficiencies get brought up to the governing body, that's not something to ignore and take lightly. But I don't know exactly what the selection process for replacing me will look like. I know I was appointed to fill in an open term actually when Tom Bailey moved a few years ago, so it's kind of come full circle.
He's back.
Yeah. But, with that, I know there is applications to the public, and I went through an interview process with the mayor and the other Ward 3 council members, so I just encourage anybody out there in Ward 3 that's interested in applying to, assuming it works the same way, throw your name in the hat. The more interest we have in city council, obviously strengthen this, and, just thank y'all.
Very good. Councilmember Alvarez.
I really didn't have any comments, but then now that Connor said that, it's like, we will miss you. We'll miss all your financial input and your advice, so we will miss that. So other than that, that's all I have.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to stop hearing from him when that audit gets published. We'll get an email. Don't worry about it. And you're just moving right down the street. Okay, a few things from me. Howell Street Playground, good to hear that that's in the planning phase. Councilmember Groen claims to have thought of this, but I've also thought that trains would be an excellent theme for that. Take that with what you will, Parks Board. I've also spoken just in passing with reps at BNSF who said that they have money that might be available to put in if they, train theme or signboards or something like that. So maybe we explore those options. Second piece, Councilmember Saper said it well. We have a great number of obligations coming up, and if done perfectly, the general resident of North Kansas City will see no change. We can rebuild pump stations and swap out lift stations and put a bunch of pipes under the ground and spend tens to many, many millions of dollars, and if we do it exactly right, nothing changes except some traffic delays. So it's not the fun stuff to be paying for, and we have been debt-free for a long time. I think that's going to have to change. We've also been kind of running on the cash basis where we just pay for everything we want to do out of cash, coming out of gaming, running the budget deficit. Oftentimes we budget for stuff that doesn't get actually done. We've had $5 to $7 million in for demolishing Purina Mill for ever since I've been around. So part of that budget deficit will come to bear sooner rather than later, hopefully. But yeah, it's going to be a time where we're looking to be as wise as we can be on how we pay for this stuff. Last piece, I've got a town hall scheduled at the Parks and Rec building, February 24th at 6 p.m., open to everyone. I had a meeting with a representative from AirKC. I believe that's how you say it. They advocate for immigrant rights, and the takeaway I had from that discussion was one of the best things that if you're looking to help people is to fund legal assistance for people who are facing detentions and deportation potentially, who may not have full understanding of their legal rights. He characterized it as playing the long game, not looking to get in fights, not looking to make headlines, not making, exercise your First Amendment and your right to protest peacefully, but the real work is being done behind the scenes on how these people are actually getting processed and given due process and treated the right way in the legal system. I'm hoping to have him or another representative come to the town hall to answer questions if people have them. Again, that is Parks and Rec Building, February 24th at 6 p.m. And that's all from me. Item 22.
Consideration of a request to hold and recess into an executive session as requested by the city administrator to be held on this date pursuant to Missouri Revised Statute Section 610.0212, Real Estate Matters, and 610.0211, Litigation Matter, Real Estate Litigation.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Salinas?
Yes.
Councilmember Click?
Yes.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember Bailey?
Yes.
Councilmember McGrone?
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgerald? Councilmember Alvarez?
Yes.
At this time, the live stream and Channel 2 will shut off. There will be no further votes or business this evening. Thanks for tuning in.